All right, we're live. Hey guys, Frank with TITHE.LY. Happy Monday. It is great to be with everyone. We've been doing these shows. We were doing them every day for a while. That was a ton of fun. We've been kind of morphing into a once a week show on Monday mornings. Hopefully this format works well, but we're having a great time talking with pastors and church leaders from, churches of all shapes and sizes all over the US. I think we've got our first Canadian guest coming next week. Going to be awesome. But just talking to churches about what they're doing during the pandemic and how church has changed, how church is evolving, what we're learning, what's been hard, just this whole thing. And even increasingly talking to people about what's it like, or what are people planning on how to go back to church, to physical meetings. So just talking about a bunch of stuff. And today I'm joined by Dennis Choy. Dennis used to be at North Coast Church, and now is at Saddleback Church, and we go back a few years now. So Dennis, it's great to have you today.
Hey, Frank, thanks, man. Love you guys at TITHE.LY, and thanks for having me on a little bit. And I think the biggest change so far is that we all have to work in our garages and stuff right now. That's kind of what I'm doing. And
we all work in our garages. And I'm, like I said, when we jumped on a little early for the pregame, you wore the hat. So I feel at
hat
home.
Game.
The hat game is strong, because throwing the hoodie and the hat on to get ready for work is pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
If you have me back, I'll wear a different hat, Frank.
Okay. I mean, I have to I only have so many hoodies and so many hats, so I have to mix and match appropriately, especially when we were doing the show every day. I had to really think about not wearing the same thing 2 days in a row. So.
Yeah. Otherwise, it looks like you just pre-recorded everything all in one day, right?
Or people are questioning whether or not I took a shower or washed my clothes or anything.
Right. Which could happen right now. That could be happening. We don't know.
We won't get into hygiene, because that's probably dangerous.
Yeah.
But we got a bunch of folks jumping on. So if you're in the comments on our Facebook page or YouTube page, appreciate you guys. Great to have you. As you know, I think it went out in an email this morning, but we try to give away something in all of our shows. So we're giving away a pair of Apple AirPods, the new one.
Sweet.
So for the folks that are, just for joining us, engaging in the comments, asking questions, giving the show a like, sharing it with your friends on YouTube or Facebook, any of those things, right? We're grateful for that. We appreciate you guys. So, we're going to give away some AirPods to one lucky winner, and we got a crew managing that. So you will hear from them. I think we've given away a couple already. And, but anyways, let's jump in. Dennis, what has it been like? Maybe you can give us a little bit of this, well, first let's start with you. Tell us about how you got into ministry, how you kind of ended up where you're at today, and what kind of work you do for Saddleback.
Yeah, wow. And I'm going to apologize up front. I'm having some focus issues with my camera. It seems like it's going in and out of focus, which is weird, I know, for a guy that is into media and production. Because it's like, why does the media guy stuff never work? And it's like, yeah, I know, that just happens. We don't get
all the stuff works at church, but not
right. So we spend our time fixing church stuff, not our own stuff. So just so you know, but so ministry, been in ministry in a volunteer or paid role for over 30 some years. Been at several churches, was at North Coast Church for 25 of those years.
Wow.
Started as a youth pastor there, but like most youth pastors know, all about technology, probably more than anybody on the team, and you play with stuff. And we started video venues in 98. And that was when I was doing youth, and they said, hey, do you want to start the production teams? Because now we're going to need a bunch of teams and people. We're starting these other churches basically within this, and we need technology. And I said, sure. And so from that point on, we built venues and built churches and buildings, and I was involved in all of that, and started just adding more teams under my umbrella, graphics teams, communication team, production team. Always kind of the core was the production team, but different support teams there, and just basically ended up being the executive pastor of operations there. And then to be honest, Frank, a little bit of story, then I ended up kind of burning out, and I actually do a whole talk on how to prevent burnout before it happens. and I didn't even know that you could burn out in a place that is a place you love. You know, usually you hear about burnouts, a place you don't like, or you've grown distant from it, whatever. That wasn't the case with me, and didn't even know. It's like eating your favorite piece of food every day. You're gonna get sick of it at some point,
Right.
you know, and don't even know it. And anyway, so that happened, and then was debating whether to stay back in the ministry or just kind of consult for a while. And been friends with Saddleback and the group there for years, and so we talked about coming on board, and so I'm helping them now. Been amazing. Weird time to jump on board a church, as if any of you guys know. It's just like you know, just trying to get to meet people and know people through Zoom or whatever web, you know, service you're using, and that's been an interesting time. But Saddleback's doing some amazing things right now in the midst of a crazy time and how church looks. And I'd love to share any of those experiences or dumb taxes that we paid as we're trying to do things, you know, right now. And it's been fun. And so that's where I am today. Is helping there. So
yeah, amazing. I mean, I think we'll have you back on again, and I think the whole topic of burnout is an important one that I'm sure a lot of people even watching have faced before, you know, and kind of unpacking that some more. But since we didn't tee up the show on that topic, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much with people. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing, you know, for church online or remote church. I mean, was Saddleback already doing church online prior to the coronavirus?
Yes. So they've had an online church service for a long time, for years. But as most of you probably have realized, you know, worship kind of took a different turn, in the sense, a different turn. I mean, a lot of people were providing worship in their online service, but when the majority, if all of your audience became people actually sitting at home, I think Saddleback philosophy just felt like that was a little strange to just shoot it normally, like on a big stage. And then actually in California, there was, you know, hey, you can't be in your churches and limited numbers. So Saddleback took a pretty strong stance on, we're not going into the building. So we're going to shoot all the stuff from home.
And like just a quick pause. I mean, it is pretty from the consumer side, right? The church member sitting in my home with my family, like doing worship on the couch, in the normal sense is pretty odd. Like it's a different experience. And somebody said it, I don't remember who I was talking to, but they said it really well. It's like, you know, we all listen to music on the radio, we watch stuff on TV, but there's something about live concerts that are just better, right? In a lot of ways, like the worship at church with people, you just can't replace it. You can't mirror it at home. So anyway,
it's hard to create that big environment, that, you know, interactive atmosphere. And that's where I feel like, I know a lot of other churches are doing a really good job with it too. It just became something where each worship leader is being recorded in their home, just like we're doing here, singing a part of a song. And then that all gets pulled together, you know, as kind of a big chorus. And I don't know, just it's so engaging. It's been surprising, because again, it's hard to pull that off. But trying to keep it fresh every week, changing it up, changing the look up a little bit, and you know,
I want to know who came up with that concept first, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sure a lot of the listeners have seen it, right? Where it's almost the Brady Bunch screen, right? You're on a Zoom meeting and you've got 10 people on it.
Right.
It looks kind of like the Brady Bunch screen, and you've got all the different artists, musicians doing their part. And I remember seeing that for the first time only recently, going like, wow, that's really cool. And then over the last 2 months, you've seen it, you know, a lot of people are picking up on that. But it's a really cool format.
It is. It's helped in being engaging. And I think we're not going to turn back. I think there's going to be a way to create worship for online that's different than the past. I think in the past, it used to be just kind of shoot, you know, wide shutter, multi-cameras, but you were just basically recording what you're already doing on a stage. And I think this has changed some of the mindset of a lot of churches. that have the resources to be able to do it, to shoot something specifically for home church, and then something for just kind of watching what's going on in the big church. And I don't know if that's going to go away now. I think it's become something that's a norm. So, and
that's a good. Someone was asking a question. What's encouraged and engaged people to come to church online, right? And there's a few different things going on, but I think you just made a good point related to that, like creating content, doing church differently in a format that works for the online environment and not the in-person, like, because they're very different.
Right. So, they are. Yeah. And it's, Frank, I think we talked a little bit about this before. I think what the old school of thought for online church used to be, again, kind of a window looking into what your church is doing. Right. So it's this window and like, hey, be a part of us. Look what we do.
Right.
And the mindset has shifted. That's not new to anybody, but the mindset has shifted that you can actually reach more people online than you can in a physical building. There's no question. Saddleback's numbers, we were running about 40,000 in attendance on a weekend. That's over the 18 campuses. Now online, regular weekend is over 100,000. So it's more than doubled.
Yeah.
Because of the ability of online and because everybody's home now. So now how do you create? So you could just sit back and go, okay, just keep watching what we do. Or you could go, hey, let's create this now focused on the online person who's sitting at home. How can it be engaging for you?
Yeah.
How can you one of the things I think I saw somebody talk about, how to share the gospel online. I don't know. This is just something I love. I've seen Rick Warren do. He ends every single message with an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was doing that before, but right now in today's world, I feel like, that's so vital. It's like, hey, why not end every single message with an invitation? And, you can accept Christ right here. You don't have to, because you never know who's watching. 100,000 people. There's obviously a lot of people that aren't believers in that.
Right.
And I just love that aspect of just always ending it. He ends it three ways. He talks about salvation. He talks about giving, and he talks about getting in a small group. Those are the three things that he talks about at the end of every single message. So but hey, guest speaker.
You want to say hi to people?
Hi.
That's awesome.
The cameos so cool. By the kids.
One of the cool things I think Frank, I mentioned to you, one of the things that Saddleback's doing is, these food pantries, these pop-up food pantries.
Yes. Yeah, so, I want to get into that for sure.
Yeah. So physical things they're doing, because we're not having church service, but they still want to be able to serve the community is, and it's weird in California, Southern California, a lot of food pantries closed down when the pandemic happened.
Right.
And actually, Saddleback was one of the churches that said, no, we're going to actually open more. Through.
And did you guys, just for context, did you guys already have an existing food pantry on the main campus or on some of the other campuses? What was the structure that you already
had? Once a week, each campus, or not every campus, but like half the campuses had a weekly food pantry thing where it's a drive up. So that's not an actual building. You drove up to whatever campus had that pantry going on, and then you get some food. But now it's every day, and I think more than half the campuses have it. But we're doing these pop-ups. Like on Wednesday in Anaheim, we picked Miles Park, and we're doing a massive pop-up food pantry. So they're doing this once a week in major areas of cities. And here's the difference, though, Frank. This has been amazing. And Rick on a staff call just shared some of these stats. Is that the difference with Saddleback's food pantry is you drive up, you get some food, you get a box of food, you get a lot of stuff, and then somebody actually right there prays for you, and they actually give you a chance to accept Christ if you want. Just a little bit of interaction and talking and sharing what Saddleback's about and why we're giving away food to people. Right. And so in the 2 months now, over 6,000 people have accepted Christ. I think half of those, 3,000 of those, through the food pantry alone. Just people driving up, don't know anything about church, getting food and saying, hey, what's going on in your life? Hey, can we pray for you? Wow. Right. Do you know who Jesus is? You want to accept him right now? And it's been amazing to see that.
It's such a natural way, right? Because the church and the people are serving the community. So you give, those who want to go out and
Yeah.
volunteer and serve, you give them this interaction, and then it's just a natural way to start a conversation. And start
It is.
to know people.
And the thing is, I mean, people are in need right now, not just physical food, but just for hope, right? And this is, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, and it's like there's people, they're just wanting truth, and you're right there. Give them some food, just like Jesus did, right? He fed people physically, and then he shared the gospel. And I loved what Rick said at a staff call the other day. His desire is that if you've never, he's talking to the staff, if you've never led somebody to Christ, he would love that 100% of the staff would have a chance to lead somebody to Christ over just by go serving at a food pantry. You just walk up, give somebody food, and ask them if they want to know Jesus.
Right.
And so. Wow. Yeah, it is. It's just a complete open window. So it's also helping the community, but it's help the kingdom.
How have you mobilized, or just even whether you're directly involved or you're just seeing the coordination of it, but how has the church mobilized the members to go out in the community during the pandemic? Like when it's like social distancing and masks and all these things, was it pretty easy to get people excited to get out and serve and just kind of follow the guidelines?
Yeah, it has. I know that there's concern, health issue. Obviously, those are some serious concerns, and we've had people say, "Hey, I just don't feel comfortable going out," and totally understand that. But Rick's been preaching in his messages also opportunities to serve, and he's on this kind of love your neighbor right now. Love your neighbor. That's what it's the second greatest commandment, right? And here's a way to do that, if you physically can get out and do this with gloves on, and we take every safety measure, possible. And so a lot of it's been through the messages on the weekend, and making it really easy to sign up and serve, real easy to sign ups, and lots of different ways. There's some behind the scenes ways to serve, and there's also this whole care calling. Like you can sign up to be a care caller, where people either email or text in prayer requests or so, and then you call them back. Okay. And so it's really been a cool thing to see that happen. And he asked for volunteers. That, hey, if you want to talk to somebody and just pray with somebody, because there's needs coming in, and the church staff can't manage them all. It's impossible, especially when you've doubled the size of your church online.
100,000 people on the weekend, right? And, the number of requests doubled as well.
Right.
Just different ways that people can be served one-on-one.
Yep, and just meeting the needs of people, and sharing Jesus and love to them in whatever way you can, whether it's physically with food, but also sharing with them. So that's been a really cool ministry to see that too, that care calling thing that started up out of it.
Yeah. So. And the kind of big topic, is kind of leading through change. And so I love, the food pantry ministry, serving the needs of the church, serving the needs, of the church and of the community, because the people get to serve, and that fills people. Right. Food, prayer, and helping people know Jesus. And then the calling, like, what'd you call it? Care calling?
Care calling, yeah.
That's super cool.
Well, and the difference, Frank, I mean, again, I'm not here to talk badly about other churches at all in any way, but I feel like the big difference is I've seen a lot of churches help the community, but it almost feels like the line stops there. Like they help them. Cool, thanks, and and see you later. But then there's often we forget about that next step of like, well, why don't you just invite them to know Christ too? You're right there. And I feel like maybe this has been the swing pre-pandemic. I felt like churches were doing church services on the weekend, and then they were doing community service during the week. And the community service was just kind of showing people Jesus' love through acts of kindness and things, but never really necessarily sharing the gospel, because they'd say, hey, then come to church on the weekend. Then you can hear Jesus, right? And I feel like the switch, at least for Saddleback, and is that, hey, no, we're going to share the gospel too. It's going to be a church service right there. Why wait?
Get a lot of people doing it, right? It's courage. Like it's faith,
Yeah.
faith
Right.
and it's courage.
Right.
Take that extra step. But we know Jesus calls us to make disciples, right? Like we're all called to go out and help people know Jesus.
Right.
But it takes that kind of step of faith and a lot of courage sometimes to just open your mouth. But when you get a big group doing it and you're doing it together with friends and it's part of what's celebrated, you start to create this momentum, right? And so I sense there's those opportunities are being created by the church, and then people are kind of doing it, and then it's being celebrated and this momentum's created. So it helps build everyone's courage because my friend's doing it or my family's doing it, or I'm in this group of people and we're all doing it and celebrating together.
Right. Yeah.
Which is powerful.
It is. It's amazing to see. And it's obviously it's powered by the Spirit, and you just kind of lean on that and go. So,
yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's talk about midweek services. Were you telling me a little bit about doing some version of midweek services and what that's like?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so it actually, when it wasn't a service of any, but it was. So we did a drive-through communion time.
That's
right. Just felt like, hey, people want to receive communion, and of course they can just do it in their home, but just thought it'd be different to try something. So we did this drive-through communion time. Every campus had it, and you drive up and you receive a bag with the elements prepackaged in them. So you get this bag handed to you. Everybody in the car.
Little cups.
Yeah, the little pool cups. And it was fascinating. I've heard the story about the guy who invented that. The guy, I think he was in Chicago or something, an ex-football player, created the cup, the juice in the top tear top thing. Yeah. So you get those handed to everybody in the car.
Those whatever the wafer portion, they're disgusting. But and they work great. And I have a feeling lots of churches are using those more and more, even after we start.
Yeah, we need like a better tasting cracker for sure in there. But but so every car would pull up. You'd pull up 5 at a time in the station, get a bag handed to you, and then you have somebody right there who's actually praying with you guys to take the elements, with you right there, and then you move on. And it was just kind of bang through there, and it was amazing time. Just so many people driving up, Frank, just crying, to be able to take elements with your church and your body in one sense. And it took a lot to do it. It was a big effort, but man, it was just incredible to see. So we did that, probably do some more of those. And then we did a baptism, an actual baptism.
Didn't you stream that too? Wasn't this all streamed online? And
we did. It became kind of 3 events: an on-site event, and then an online event, and then an on Zoom event. It was 3 different things. So you could be interactive on a Zoom call, but then you could just watch it like a kind of like a panda cam, hey, it's on the whole time, because it's a couple hours worth of baptisms. But it was amazing, because how do you do baptisms without touching anybody? How do you and then how do you separate everybody 6 feet apart, and they line up and they come in the pool, and Rick was part of it all. He sat in a chair just outside the baptismal, and each person was ushered in one at a time. Whether if you're getting baptized by somebody, obviously you both came into the tub. But if you didn't have anybody to baptize you, family member, then we did self baptisms where Rick led you through what you do, and then go ahead and now dunk your head in and come out, and you've been born, and we're broadcasting it, right? And so cheer, everybody clap, and the whole world gets to see you, proclaim your faith for Jesus. And again, wow, it's special time, just blown away. We'll be doing more of those too. But just trying to offer some stuff that's regular too, in the regular church world, but in a way, obviously, to be socially distanced and only family members, together, and those kind of things, and limited. It's just been fun to kind of create some of those environments that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful. What's it been like? We got a couple minutes left here. What's it been like behind the scenes to coordinate these things, to work on your piece of it with the team? How was that going down at the kind of mega church level? Massive.
Yeah. So obviously, internet calling systems, video calling systems, whether it's Zoom or whatever it is you're using, has been really helpful. But one of the issues is it's so linear, even though it's a digital world. It's like, if I've got to talk to a couple people, well, if I can't get them all on one call together, then I have to ping them individually, and hopefully they respond and say, hey, we got to touch base, instead of like being in an office with 5 people, like, hey, let's grab a couple of you guys, let's talk real quick. And you get that little 2-second or 2-minute conversation. Cool. It clears up everything. Yeah. It's like, you can't do that right now. You're like, hey, are you available? Hey, I got to I want to tell you with the other guys, because you hear the same thing. If I just tell you, maybe I'll forget to say something. Yeah. And so that's been so linear that I know a lot of you guys, Zoom fatigue is real. It's like one at a time, right? Right? Isn't it, Frank? It's like, because you have so many of them back to back to back to back to back. And that's been the biggest challenge, is especially in a church with lots of staff you need to communicate with. It's just really, and picking the same tool. You probably, do you text them? Do you email them? Do you get a Zoom call with them? Do you chat with them? Do you use Microsoft Teams?
Use the telephone?
Yeah. Oh, do you just call them? Right. Yeah. And it's like, what tool do you pick to get a hold of them? And so that's been probably the biggest challenge. And for small churches too, it's no different, but it's just, communication has stepped up 12 times what it used to be, right? Instead of you all being in the same room. It's like, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah, it's got harder. Well, let's end on that. You guys are a big church. You're resourced in a way that most churches aren't. For smaller churches, how can you, in your mind, sort of take some of the stuff you guys are doing and apply it to the smaller church? Like, average church in America is 100, 150 people. Yeah. What can those kind of churches be doing? I don't know, to think the way you guys.
Yeah, I think everything's scalable. I think that's, there's definitely a scalability. And sometimes I envy the smaller church, because, we need every single church in America. There's no question, right? Mm-hmm. If every single church in America was completely full, if we were back in the time where you could sit physically and sit in a chair, every single church was full and every service was full, I guarantee you that wouldn't even, that'd probably be 20% of the population of the United States or the world, right? And so you need every single church. And what I love about smaller churches is the personal touch you have, the ability. My brother-in-law is a pastor of a small church, and he's actually loving this time right now, because he's more in touch with every single, he has a church of 100, and he calls every single person every single weekend, because he has the ability to do that. He didn't do that before. They'd come to church on a weekend. He'd maybe talk to 30 of them. Yeah. Right. And they leave. And he's like, no, I have the time. I can call every single one of them every single weekend and know exactly what's going on with them. And so to me, I go, wow, that's amazing. How much more in touch can you be?
Yeah. Right? That's cool. Love that.
Just a cool, it's a different perspective. You just got to switch your perspective right now. It's different times, different methodologies, different tools you have to use. Yeah. So
I love the smaller church definitely has the ability to be more connected, especially at the sort of leadership staff level with everyone that's there, and using Zoom, using the phone, you can connect with a lot of people, spend that kind of time. So super cool. Dennis, this has been awesome. We could keep chatting, but I want to be respectful of time. So appreciate you. Where can folks go to just see what Saddleback's doing, to check out some of these cool things that you guys are trying during the pandemic?
Yeah, saddleback.com. You have to navigate it a little bit. There's different places, different events, that go under, I think, events, and show some of the things that we're doing or invited to and we can serve at. So yeah, hit that up. So
love it. Yeah. And if you're still on with us, like I said, we're giving away some AirPods. We would appreciate if you'd share this show. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, hit the share button, post it into your feed, help other people kind of get this content and learn some of the things that Dennis and the crew at Saddleback's doing. I know it's a big team doing, a lot of people serving to make this happen. So Dennis, I appreciate you and appreciate your humility as you come on the show and talk about burnout, talking about how you're serving in a bigger church and kind of what you're learning. Just appreciate you a ton. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me, man. It's been awesome. Love you, love TITHE.LY, love the guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Love it. So guys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, and have a great week.